Chosen people.
Okay, so we have two words today, pride and humility. So, can somebody give me what they believe or what they've heard the English definition of pride is? Anybody? Pride? What is pride? Self-worth. Huh? English definition, just the English definition of pride. Self-worth, okay. And then what do we see as humility? Humility, to be humble, but like, how does that look? Anybody know what that looks like?
It's like not bragging on yourself.
Not bragging on yourself? Okay. So what we know pretty much by now is that Hebraically every word has an action base. So when we have words defined, it tells how we're supposed to act and how those actions should look. Okay, so can somebody read for me 2 Chronicles 7:14 and how they tells teachers it in your loud and proud voice? Like so 2 Chronicles 7:14.
I have it memorized.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear them from heaven and forgive their sins and heal their land.
Exactly. So it says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves. So most of the time when we hear that verse, immediately we go, okay, humble myself. That means I should what? Because if we're supposed to do that, that's the way that we receive Yah's blessing, then we should know what it looks like to be humble. Because He doesn't want your money. He doesn't want your prayers. He doesn't want anything until you first exercise humility. So if we don't know what humility is, then we have no idea of how to get out of our condition. So the first thing we deal with is the pride part. Because I think we all can understand that. We can all understand the negative most of the time before we can understand the positive. So pride, there's two Hebrew words for pride. There's three, but it's more of the word haughty. And so they kind of go hand in hand, but I'll give you the two that are directly related to pride. So the first one is resh, vav, and a mem sofit. Oh, that mem looks like a summit. There we go. And it's actually the word, and I'll put the vowel point just for all intents and purposes, it's room. The word is room. So, room. And so the resh is, what is it, resh? Head, person first. Okay. And then the vav is nail, peg, add, or to be securely fastened. We know that one, right? Okay, and then the mem is water, chaos, and motion. Okay, so the word literally means, for the water part, it's the idea of water when it rises up, it rises up high. So that's the action behind it. When water rises up high, it exalts itself. And it's very intimidating too, right? Also has to do with to be high, lofty, to cause to grow up, or, in another terms, doing it through sometimes deceit. So to use a high position to then deceive others. That's the negative side of it. The positive is obviously the action form. Okay, so it means to put oneself in a place of height. That's what pride is. Pride is to raise yourself up into a position where now you are the authority and also the one that evokes the fear. Okay? The second word is this word, and it's spelled Gimel, Aleph, Hey. Okay? And this word means the same, similar thing. It's the idea of pride, but it means to do so in excellence or majesty. So the way we see it, when you see something that's majestic, one of the pictures we get is like a man on a horse. When a man mounts a horse, it raises him up and he sits in a place where it makes you go, wow. It's something that catches you. If you ride down the street and you see a person on a horse, you just stop and you're like, that is something else. So the idea of the majesty of what it's sitting on, right? And also the action of the person sitting on it. So it's an action. Okay, the idea of a person sitting on a throne. They're exalted. That seat that they sit on gives them a sense, it gives you a sense of pride. It's a lifting up, okay? All right, so if those two things are pride, when we have those things in ourselves, it becomes a negative, right? It's always a negative when we ourselves have pride. Now, I'm not talking about pride in the positive sense, and I'm going to give you that. But pride in the sense that we ourselves have exalted ourselves into that position. Where you seek, perfect example, Nimrod. It says he's a mighty hunter before Yah, right? So it's this idea that he is in front of Yah. Whenever you exalt yourself, and Yah is not the one who has done the exalting, you have then put yourself above Yah. Now I'm going to give you something that's kind of cool, because it kind of flips around in humility, but it's kind of the same thing. That's why I put them together. Okay, so, and I'll write the words at the end on the side so you can have them, and what their strong numbers and Hebrew lexicon numbers are. So the word for humility, does anybody know what that word is? When I tell you, you're going to be like, I've heard that word before. Okay, the word for humility is kana. Kana. So it's kaf, noon, hey. Okay? Anybody know what kaf is? Palm of hand to open. Okay. And noon? Seed, fish, activity, life. And hey? Lo, behold, the. Okay. Check this out. Oh, I got, okay. Kana. But the action form of humility, I'm sorry, is this. The verbal form. The word for, it's actually the ayin. So, ayin is?
I see experience.
Okay. So, I to see experience. So, kaf, palm of hand to open. Noon, seed, fish, activity, life. Ayin, I to see experience. Okay? Literally, if you take the picture, it's going to seem, sometimes the Western pictures we have give us a action form. So what happens then if you have humility and Yah is asking for humility? Humility means literally to bind, to lower, to put in subjection. What a king does, right, when a subject is humble before him, is that the subject bows, right, so the subject is low, and what the person who is above them, in this situation being Yah or the king, then their eyes are on their head. And when the subject is low, it allows the hand or the palm of the king to then give them authority. So you see it a lot like with the queen when she gets her little like scepter and she's like, I dub thee, but what does the person have to do first? Before they can be, they have to bow down first.
You see it in the
right?
animal kingdom.
You see it in the animal kingdom? Right, when like in the prides where certain animals will bow down when other, right, they submit down to the one in a higher position. But when after they do the submitting, and after you know who the power comes from, then it puts that person now in a place of power. Right? So if we go back then, 2 Chronicles, he goes, if you humble yourselves, then if you get down and acknowledge that I am the one who has the power to then give the power, then I'm going to then give the power to you so you can carry out your proper function. But if you try to take the power, then you make yourself a target. So one of the things we talked about earlier, me and Morey, before I got started, was I immediately saw something in war like this. So remember, in war, most of the time in Western society, what happens is all of the strong men guard the king, right? And so they are supposed to take all the blows for the king. But for Yah, it's not that. He goes, you bow so they can see me. Let me be the target. You bow so you're protected. The position of humility is a protected position. When you're high and lifted up and you're standing up, then you become the target. So pride comes before a fall, because if you stand up in war and I'm the one fighting, I might cut your head off too. I'm cutting off all heads that are standing. So if you, the picture of the wheat and the tare is an interesting picture, because the difference between the wheat and the tare is when they grow up, the wheat bows and the tare stands up straight. And so when the sickle comes, you're going to get all the tare first in the harvest. You're going to gather it up. So the wheat knows through humility to bow, because it's for preservation of life. The one who is wielding the sword is the king. And if you are against him and you're standing in pride, then you're also going to get his judgment executed upon you. So he's like, if you're humble and you subject yourself to me, let me be the target. I take all the blows. You bow so that they can see me. Because they only want me. Every time we exalt ourselves in pride or into a position without Yah, then we become the target. But there's a word, when Yah exalts us though, he exalts his kings. You listen to David, he puts a stronghold in a positive, where now I put you into a high and lofty place that's protected. And he talks about himself being an eagle, and I encircle my people. When I lift you up, now I'm the one, I put you there. So now I put you so high that the arrows can't reach you. And then I can fight for you. But if you come and you exalt yourself, then you make yourself a target because they want me. But if you exalt yourself, they're going to get you, and then I'm going to have to get them. So you get it? So I had 2 verses. So 2 Chronicles 7:14, and can somebody find it? Because I want somebody to read it to 18 if you can. Or just pass me a Bible. Can I see a Bible? Perfect. Okay. It says, if my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sins and will heal their land. Now you're going to hear the application part of what humility is. And what the idea of his eye being the one that's watching the head of his people. Now mine eyes shall be open, and my ears attend unto thy prayers that is made in this place. For now I have chosen and sanctified this place, that my name may be there forever, and mine eyes and mine heart shall be there perpetually. And as for thee, if thou wilt walk before me, as David thy father hath walked, and do according to all that I have commanded thee, and thou shalt observe my statutes and my judgments, and I will establish the throne of the kingdom, that exalted place, right? According to what I have covenanted with David thy father, saying, there shall not fail thee to be a ruler in Israel, or an exalted one in Israel. So the idea of pride then, the only pride or boasting we have is in Yah and what he establishes. So if you go to 1 Corinthians 1:31, Shaul tells us exactly what that looks like. He says, is it 1:31? 1 Corinthians. Oh yeah. It says that according as it is written, he that glorieth, let him glory in Yahuwah. The only exaltation we have as a people is in Yah. The idea of, I gave you that word room, right? So I gave you room, let me write it back up here in black. So room and the right? Both of these have to do with exalting with your own strength. One of the things that people do is they try to have a bunch of kids. They try to build their own posterity. The picture is the only thing we exalt in is Yah, because Yah gives everything. So Exodus 15:1 teaches that he's like, I gave it. I did it. Remember that it was me who did it. Okay? And then the last thing is Mark 13, I think it was 13:13. And it says, it's Yah who, Yahushua tells us that when you fight, when you're with me, the whole world's going to hate you. But he's like, don't worry about that, because they hated me first. They hate you because they hate me. So remember over and over again, it's funny because in 1 Peter 3:14, Peter actually gets the picture. He's like, when he tried to stand up and fight for Yahushua, what did he tell him? He said, put your sword away. They want me. What are you doing? Let them take me. So we're just going to remember that. So Rum and Ga'ah are pride. And the only person who has a right to pride is Yah. Period. And then he can give and exalt or glorify another. But the only one that he has glorified is Yahushua. Right? And then this idea of humility has to do with the idea of humbling yourself or bowing, so that the target or the one that's always being seen is Yah.
And say humility.
Humility, Kana.
Kana.
Kana. Okay, and I'll write these on here.